What if I told you there was a way to change which item you had fully refined without actually losing any equipment in the process? A lot of you probably know this trick by now, but I don't think I had made a video on it, so I figured it was worth sharing, and let's get into it. Alright, before we get started, I want to stress that this method cannot re-roll the skills or traits on your weapon, whatever you want to call them. This men strength thing, melee might thing, dwarven training. You cannot change those. The game does preserve those in the refinement process. So whatever I put into this carver to get it up to 5 refined gold stars will pop out when using it to strengthen or refine another item. So just keep that in mind. That was an old rumor back in the day. I don't really know if it's still a rumor, but I did want to clear that up. Let's say, for example, I want to change this Trapper's Hood with Hysteria into a Trapper's Hood with Ranged Vigor, for example. I'll show you guys how to do that just in a second. What you'll need in order to do this is a fully refined item of the base type, aka a fully refined Trapper's Hood, a fully refined Bone Helm, whatever. And you need an unrefined version of that same exact base type. And you will need at least one worn out version of the overall equipment type, helm, chest, weapon, etc. Or you'll just need one piece to throw away into this to give it this first star worth of strengthening. So I'm going to go ahead and strengthen this one time. And now, super simple. What I actually need to do, though, before I do this is take this off of Haldir. You can do this. I'm going to swap them out already. You just need the fully refined version not equipped so that you can use it. So you're going to strengthen it one time, then you're going to take the fully refined version, go ahead and refine your first gold star. You're going to get a message that a bunch of stuff is going to pop out. What's going to happen is you're going to get a whole bunch of worn outs. All of those worn outs are going to let you re-strengthen this item, and then the items that you had put into that item in order to refine it, all of those are going to pop back out. So if you see here, I have a whole bunch of new Trapper's Hoods. These are all going to have whatever base skill, trait, attribute. I guess these are the attributes: focus, speed, might, yada yada, those attributes. I'm just going to call these the item skills. These, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, do not change. You cannot re-roll those. They come out exactly as they were. And in addition to that, you have a whole bunch of worn outs. So then what you do is you throw all of these back into your item. You will be, in the end, ultimately left with that one worn out that you had at the beginning, because that's the way this works. You get all of those items back. It's just the ones that you used to strengthen come back as worn outs. The ones that you used to refine come back as they were. And I'll just finish up this process just to show you guys. I don't want to make the video too long because I imagine you're all smart enough to figure it out from this point, but you'll see I'll have the one worn out helm left. And conveniently, I have exactly enough Trapper's Hoods to finish the refinement process, take this all the way back to the 5 gold stars of refinement. And then, let's say I wanted to use Hysteria again. I would just want to keep one of these bad boys around. And maybe I decided that Haldir with Hysteria is better than Haldir with Ranged Vigor. I don't know which is better, but just for the sake of the argument, then you could go ahead and swap it back. So now that you understand how to do it, we will finish up the video talking about a practical application for this. So for example, let's say you're not a huge spender. I'm not that huge of a spender, but at this point I have enough horsemen's to have 2 fully refined horsemen's helms. And let's say I knew that I was going to be fighting something like a Witch King or a Gandalf the White, and I wanted to game the system a little bit. I could convert one of these fully refined Resolve Horseman's Helms into a fully refined warding, Horseman's Helm, go ahead, take that fight, and then afterwards, let's say I want the Madness immunity back, I can just go ahead and swap it back to Madness immunity, and I haven't lost anything in the process. This is also particularly useful in season starts, where you might want something like a sustain pipe for, or like a Mend Hithlane. I think Mend Hithlane is probably a better example. You might want a Mend Hithlane for early game tiles, that way you have a little bit of extra healing in there. And then later on down the line, you want to swap that over to Bane of Orcs for killing Gorbags and Sunnis, or whatever it may be, or Bane of Dwarves Drums. You just want to swap the skill later on down the line, but you don't spend enough to have 2 or 3 fully refined versions of that purple item sitting in your inventory. You can have the fully refined Mend Hithlane for your season starts. Then once you start getting into PvP, switch it over to Bane of Orcs, and then when the season's over and you're about to start again, you're sitting in Bag End with nothing better to do, swap it back to Mend, and you haven't lost anything in the process. Hopefully this short-ish, quick, simple tip helps you guys get a little bit more value out of your items and commanders in Rise to War, and thank you for watching.